Welcome everyone. Shabbat Shalom. This special Shabbat, Shabbat Shira, it's known as, because of the Torah portion, Bishalach, in which we have this centerpiece of perhaps the entire Torah, the episode of the Exodus from Egypt, the crossing of the sea. And in that ancient poem, we have the Micha Mocha text and the song at the sea. Shabbat Shira. So let's begin with Shalom Aleichem as we welcome the angels of Shabbat into our homes, into our thoughts, into our minds now. So let's join together. Shalom Aleichem. For those of you who have a prayer book at home, page 24. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Boachem L'Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Barchuni L'Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Seitechem L'Shalom Malachei HaShalom Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi Leader.
Shabbat Shalom, Cantor Gurney. Nice to be with you again.
And you.
And everyone watching. We're in a moment going to do candles, kiddush, and motzi. But before we do, I want to just give you everyone a little precursor to an introduction I'm going to make to a very special video later. Let me just say this much right now. Sometimes the symbiosis between the Torah portion and what's happening in our society and the secular calendar, sometimes the connectivity and symbiosis between them is mind-bogglingly perfect. And that's all I'm going to say for now. I'm going to say more later. Let's go to candles, kiddush, and motzi. It's quite a wick you have there on that candle. Can't bear
right?
that. Yeah.
There it is.
Don't set your hair on fire.
There we go. Steve, I would share with you in this moment, I'm just reminded that these candlesticks were a wedding gift to Nancy and me when I was still at Rodef Shalom. And I remember the family who gave them to us. And Nancy and I celebrated our 24th anniversary just this past week.
Mazel tov.
So speaking of symbiosis.
24 years. That's great.
How about that? And you know what? When Jillian was born, I knew right when she was born that her bat mitzvah Torah portion would be, in fact, this week's Torah portion, Bishalach, which it was.
Yeah.
And here we are.
That's great. Now hold up. We can only see the candles in the shot, so let's see the candlesticks.
There we go.
Got it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, they are beautiful.
Mazel tov. 24 years is a great accomplishment.
Yes, it is.
How one woman could stand so much joy. I don't even know.
Oh, there's an ancient poem and song all about that.
All right,
let's bring in the double light of Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher sharu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של Shabbat. And now we join in Kiddush. Again, those of you with a prayer book, we're on page 4. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshana b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techilah למקראי קודש, זכר יציאת מצרים, כי באנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת קודשך, באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. Amen.
Chaim. Is there a story behind that Kiddush cup also, Don?
I'm not sure, but I do know that it was a gift to Jillian for her bat mitzvah.
Perfect.
That, right?
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's time for challah and motzi. So share that challah with your family members, your friends, and let's join in the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam המוציא לחם מן הארץ. Amen. B'te'avon, everyone.
Well, as promised a little bit earlier, I'm going to speak very, very briefly because we have something powerful and beautiful to share with you by video. I'm going to speak very briefly about what I mentioned earlier about this incredible symbiosis between our Torah portion and what's happening in our country this Shabbat, and particularly the day after on Sunday and Monday in churches and synagogues, virtually mostly all over the country. So this is probably one of the most famous of all Torah portions. It's one of those where the rabbi never has to really explain what happens because everyone knows. This is the famous Exodus story, the crossing of the sea and the Israelites escaping from slavery to freedom, and the Egyptians chasing after them, including the Pharaoh and his chariot, and the Egyptians drowning, dying, suffocating, their society coming to an end because they were overwhelmed by the consequences of their indifference to the suffering of others. And this weekend, it's a national holiday, Martin Luther King Day. And one of the things that I think particularly many younger people don't understand about Dr. King was that, yes, he began fighting primarily for civil rights, but he pretty quickly began to understand that civil rights were in and of themselves important, but not ultimately sustainable, and not ultimately the only way to create a just and moral society. That our society had to deal not only with racism, but with other forms of enslavement with poverty, with war, with corruption. And his efforts his efforts were about all of that. Just as freedom is about all of that. There were 10 plagues, not one. Racism is a plague. It is not the only plague that enslaves African Americans, the poor, the voiceless, the powerless. There are many plagues, and King understood, and hopefully we understand, as he so perfectly put it, none of us is free until all of us are free. And that's worth remembering as we now are going to watch this video of the Michamocha, these words, these very words from our Torah, the oldest Hebrew poem we know of, the words that our ancestors sang out when they crossed from slavery to freedom. And these words are an important reminder. We sing them at every service because what Dr. King taught us, the rabbis also understood that none of us are free until all of us are free. And this is our freedom prayer, not just for the Jewish people, for all, everywhere. I hope, and Cantor Gurney hopes, that this video moves you and helps you enter a Shabbat of real contemplation, real meaning, and real commitment to what each of us can do to free others from all that enslaves them. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
When your children witnessed your power, they extolled you and gave you thanks. And yet we, your children, still need to experience your redemptive power in the world. We need hope, and we need faith. In the words of Dr. King, with this faith we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will all be free one day.
כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, אוסיף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע הים לפני משה ומרים. Zeli anu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed.
And when this happens, we will allow freedom to ring. When we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Praised are you, O God, the Redeemer of us all.